Good morning and welcome to day 3 of JES Confluence. We had exciting 2 days of JES Confluence, first on sustainable urban development and then deep tech for good. As we now enter the third and final day of JES Confluence, which is spatial, societal and holistic well-being. While we have to take care of our spaces to create sustainable living and sustainable future for the society and for the cities, we cannot forget the social aspect and the holistic health of each individual that's part of the society. So today is a very important day and a very important topic. We have first a keynote speaker and then the first panel, which will be moderated by Apul from Brigade REAP. And thereafter, we have a special premiere of a Danish track. And from Denmark, we will cover the same topic. And it's going to be an excellent lineup of speakers. We promise that day 3 will be great. And you will have an amazing mix of ideas, concepts, which can all help us to connect the dots, collaborate, and co-create a sustainable future. I'm now pleased to welcome Mr. John Kurvilla, who is the chief mentor at Brigade REAP. Now, Brigade REAP is a very large accelerator and one of India's award-winning accelerators. So, REAP is Real Estate Accelerator Program, and it's anchored by the Brigade Group in Bangalore, India. And what they do is every year they have this amazing cohort of startups which are now moving towards the direction of PropTech and helping the whole property sector or the real estate sector to become green. This is also a great service for the society, for cities, and also for startups. And John has been a great mentor and advisory board member of TIA Summit. So I'm extremely delighted to hand over the floor to John, and he will give an excellent keynote. I have seen it, the sneak view before. It's an excellent keynote speech, and I hope you will enjoy it. Over to you, John.
Jose, thank you, Jose. Thank you, TIA, for hosting the GES Confluence. It's a topic that's particularly close to my heart. With your permission, Jose, I have made one change in this entire program, and I've added the impact of economics to the topic that you've suggested. I'm going to start with a very simple statement. We live in a connected world. And when I say that we live in a connected world, the first thing that comes to mind is the internet. The fact that we can communicate with people. The fact that sitting here in Bangalore, we are today reaching out to people across the world with the message of what the JES conference is all about. But let me take the liberty of actually bringing a fairly contrarian view to what this topic means to me. If I take the world that we live in, that is in fact brought together by technology. But the funny part is if we change the perspective to this line, it means that a forest fire in Indonesia can actually impact everybody in Asia and other parts of the world. A volcanic eruption in Iceland a few years back impacted all our lives. Every traveler who had to fly across continents was impacted. If you take the glacier meltdown in the northern hemisphere, this is impacting people and civilizations as far down south as the Maldives and Mauritius. If you take the oil spill that happened in the Gulf of Mexico many years back, it's perhaps one of the largest man-made disasters. It has impacted the lives of millions of people within a 1,000 square mile radius. And then you have closer home, India. You have husk burning, which is very, very current and topical today. Husk burning in Haryana and Punjab are impacting the lives of people in Delhi, Agra, and Rajasthan. Is this the connected world that I was referring to? Absolutely. And this connected world is in danger of ocean pollution, river pollution, which is destroying the lives and livelihoods of millions of people across the planet. In fact, when I was spending time understanding this topic and researching it, I was appalled and upset about a news information that I was able to unearth. This is the Aral Sea. It's 26,000 square miles between Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan. A few decades back, the rivers that fed this lake were diverted for cotton farming. And today, it is the largest man-made desert in the world. And then, of course, thanks to the fact that we live in a connected world, the impact of a silent killer that nobody's paying attention to today, electromagnetic radiation, because of all the connectivity that is around us. Now, if you look at the economic impact of this connected perspective that I just showed you, the forest fires in Indonesia, which are man-made, and this is what reports tell us, because they're looking at acquiring more land for farming, that has cost the Indonesian economy $5 billion. Mexico oil spill has cost $8.7 billion over 7 years. And these are documented information that I've been able to pick up from the internet because we live in a connected world. The Iceland volcanic eruption has cost $4.7 billion. The ocean pollution is costing us $13.7 billion to the marine economy. Water pollution can reduce the economic growth by a third, and these are World Bank statements. The market impacts of outdoor air pollution can approximately impact 1% of the world GDP. And the cost of air pollution close to home will cost our country $30.7 billion. Now, this is alarming. This is the impact that we as a civilization are having on this world. Now, if you juxtapose another piece of data, information, we live in a built world. 39% of global CO2 emissions come from buildings. 35% of all waste is generated in buildings. 30% of energy is consumed in buildings. 20% of water is consumed in buildings. And what appalled me was that the buildings we live in, more often than not, has air quality that's between 2 to 5x worse than the outdoor air quality. And COVID has shown us that if we give nature time to heal, it can bounce back and give us a second chance. Now, COVID has also done something else to us. Instead of spending 87% of our time indoors, we are now spending 95 to 96% of our time indoors. And this is going to impact each one of us on this planet. And I'd urge people who are listening to the JES conference to actually take cognizance and understand a detailed impact of each of these elements that I've spoken to. Now, I'm not here to paint a gloom and doom picture, because these are challenges, and I come from a school of thought where every challenge is a phenomenal opportunity for each one of us to create solutions that can create a better world. Let's take water as the first challenge. 21 cities in India are going to run out of water by 2025. That's not far away, 5 years. There is Chennai in the southern part of India, which ran out of water. Now, the funny thing is Chennai is surrounded by oceans. How can it run out of water? But this is potable water that we're talking of. If you take sewage problem, almost 70% of Indian sewage is untreated. The picture I'm showing you, alarming as it is a bitter reality. These are lakes that have caught fire in Bangalore, lakes. And that's because 77% of sewage is dumped into lakes. 40%, surprising, 40% of Bangalore sewage is actually going into lakes. And conventional STPs, and one of the reasons for this is conventional STPs break down more often than not. If you take global waste problem, another significant problem. I know what's interesting, while the data is there to show that, this is going to be of alarming proportions in the next few years, 3 billion tons of municipal waste. What's even more dangerous for us in India is that going forward, every 10 years, you will need a landfill the size of a Bangalore. Imagine in our generation and the generation that's growing up today, you will have cities as landfills. Now comes the other issue, and this is very, very common, especially in the northern part of India, where air pollution is causing severe problems for people, and millions of lives are being lost because of it. The other danger that I talked of, which is thanks to network, thanks to connectivity, thanks to mobile phones, thanks to Wi-Fi, there is the danger of electromagnetic radiation. Now, what I didn't know till I actually did a lot of work and worked with a startup which is addressing this issue, is that the symptoms of this are nothing severe. Headaches, fatigue when you wake up in the morning. Those are symptoms that indicate that there is a likelihood of AMR in your room, in your house, in your office, which is significantly higher than what is permissible. All this, I've showed you some of the stuff, but I've got significant amount of data. All this is making our cities unlivable. In 1973, close to 70% of Bangalore was green. Today, only 2% of Bangalore is green. What if our cities become unlivable? What happens to all of us? And there's another data specific to India. In the next 7 years, 50% is the growth in urban population in urban India. That's going to put severe stress on an already stressed environment in the cities that we live in. Now, I added a word, economic impact. Let me show you how this impacts the sector that we are trying to build solutions for. For the real estate industry in India, I'm just taking one city, which is Bangalore. 64% is the average increase in temperature over the past 20 years. 64%. 4% is the increase in OPEX for every degree of change in climate. Can you imagine the impact that's already cost us? When I came to Bangalore in 1991, the water table in Whitefield was at 300 feet. Today it's at 1,800 feet. Is increasing by 100%, and the financial impact of waste is going to be a 7% increase in annual waste management. All this put together, both from an OPEX perspective and a CAPEX perspective, is going to cost just the real estate and infra and construction industry in Bangalore a whopping $2.5 billion over the next 5 years. And this is the impact on an environment and an industry that's, as it is, struggling with its own battles. Labor productivity in the real estate industry is amongst the lowest in the world. And this is not me saying this is a McKinsey report. And if you take a look closer home, the situation in our country actually decide to move forward to create Asia's first PropTech accelerator. At that point in time, everybody said, real estate is not going to use technology, startups are not going to work with the real estate industry, and they were not very, very wrong. When we started in 2016 October, there were just about 15 companies addressing issues that were of real value, solving real problems for the real estate industry. Today, I'm happy to say that we ourselves, as a team at Brigade REAP, have identified 2,000 PropTech startups and spoken to about 700. Now, PropTech is a very, very large word, Many years back, Forbes did an article which said prop tech was construction tech, collaborative economy, and the cusp of fintech and prop tech. But we now know, after having spent 3-4 years in this industry, in this space, that it covers much more. There's sustainability, there's wellness, there is alternate materials, there is data, big data, very, very important. And there is so much more that this word encompasses. And we today work with partners like Cisco, like Intel, like Microsoft, to work actually helping technology founders to create real solutions to address real problems. Now, in the light of the past 13 minutes that I've spoken on the challenges, what have we as Brigade REAP done to address and mitigate some of those challenges? This is a list of startups, 40 to be precise, over the past 4 years that are addressing and taking head-on some of the problems that I described. What I've outlined in green are startups that are actually addressing the sustainability issue that the world is facing, and especially our country. If you take the first startup, Smarter Dharma, is actually creating the world's first SRP, or Sustainability Resource Platform, which will, from a blueprint stage, tell a real estate company what are the interventions that technology should do to make their buildings sustainable. You have a startup called Natura, which is actually bringing greenery back onto and into buildings using a very unusual substrate, which is competition to soil, cocoa peat. It's a waste from coconut husk. It's got capillary action. It's 1/10 the weight of soil. It needs 1/10 the amount of water, and it's technology that they brought in, which can actually use this material to create gardens on our rooftops, on our walls, and in indoor spaces. EcoSTP. EcoSTP is perhaps one of the companies that, for developing nations, is actually creating an alternate to conventional motor-based STP systems, and they have taken an unusual inspiration from the stomach of a cow. They are an STP solution that doesn't need power, doesn't need human intervention, and you shut it and forget it. And the beauty, you can use the land on top of it because there's no odor, and people can use it to build playgrounds, they can use it for parking, and what have you. We got, in the 3 years of their existence, they have saved 2 cities through 70,000 sensors and holistic water management, close to 3 billion liters of water. So the challenges that I spoke of in the first half of my session are challenges that are real, and we have real technology companies that are solving this. Then we have companies, I talked about the second part, which is the inefficiencies that are impacting financially the real estate industry. And you have companies which are circled in blue, which are actually helping real estate, infrastructure, and construction companies save millions of dollars through technology intervention. And then, in March of this year, when COVID hit us, we actually went to the market and asked key stakeholders, what are the problems you want our startups to address? And the single answer that came back to us was, can you find startups that can address COVID issues? Now, Express is an interesting company that manages last yard delivery in gated communities. So if you're living in a gated community with 500 apartments, imagine every day you have hundreds of people, the delivery boys, the e-commerce companies, the cab companies, the help, all of them walking in and out. Of this, almost 70% are people who are delivering some service into these communities. Express has actually created an interesting intervention of human intervention and technology, where they become the gatekeepers into every community, therefore preventing the spread of both security and safety issues within a community. LiveSafe, I think he's going to be in the next panel, is actually helping you audit the challenges of electromagnetic radiation and actually has solutions that can mitigate the risk of exposure to radiation. We have Spintly, which has created India's first wireless access control system. You don't need to now touch biometric systems. You don't need any physical intervention for flap barriers or boom barriers. Everything is now on a handheld device that's unique to you, the individual. SAN IoT is a very interesting company that is actually creating holistic toilet management system, and as part of their roadmap to address COVID challenges, they're actually creating a solution. They've actually created, it's tested in Orion Mall. They're actually ensuring that rooms are completely pathogen-free using a very interesting technology solution. Cleco is another interesting company. I talked about 2 to 5x poor air quality inside buildings. Cleco's actually addressed that. Today, that company manages 2.5-year-old company manages close to 2 million square feet of purifying air at less than ₹1 per square foot. And he also, in COVID times, has now created a solution where the inflow of air from the duct is pathogen-free. So the challenges that we have are not insurmountable. These are challenges that can be addressed if all of us put our minds together, the startup community, the industry, and we can actually create solutions that can work. Now look at the benefit of what these companies have done. I talked about it, but what's highlighted in black are the tangible evidence of delivery that these companies have done to the industry at large. Then we have a set of startups that are actually enhancing customer experience. I'm not going to delve into that because that was not our priority, but these guys are doing some great service. And even in today's day and age, data companies, home painting companies are actually adding a lot of value to the industry. Now, the beauty of what we have done, I mean, when we started in 2016, there were a lot of naysayers. Today, every startup that has been mentored at Brigade REAP has got not only business from the data industry across the country, but has got recognition from across the globe. Last year, 2019, there were 5 PropTech awards functions. Every award function was won by a Brigade REAP mentored startup. So much so that Business Today, which does 12 cooler startups every year, sector agnostic, had 3 of our startups featuring as the coolest startups in the country. Cleco is in the under 30 Forbes. We got won the JLL PropTech Award. PropVR QuickSpec, and we got won the NASSCOM CBRE Award. And KPMG's Global Innovation white paper talks of several of our startups actually solving problems for the world. And in recognition of what we did, this came as a surprise to us. The Government of India in October this year actually recognized us as the #1 accelerator program because they believe that we are solving real-world issues. So my request to people in the room, people watching us, let's come together to actually address the sustainability challenge, the inefficient challenge facing the data industry, and build a better place for all of us to live and thrive. Thank you, Jose, once again for having me and sharing our journey thus far.
That was really amazing, John. I think in 20 minutes you packed a lot of punch. And thank you also for mentioning all those amazing startups. I just want to ask you just one question. I know it's a difficult question to choose among all of them, but if you were to choose from one of all these startups in Brigade REAP, which you think will have the highest impact in the next 5 years? It's just, I know, speculative, but in any case.
But I have the answer.
Okay, excellent. Please go.
It's Brigade REAP.
Brigade REAP. Ah, okay.
It's a startup. It's just 4 years old. And we are bringing together the might of the industry and the startups to solve real world problems.
Excellent. So, you see, friends, you know, that's the most interesting thing. If we can create platforms and ecosystems for startups of every size, every shape, every sustainable objective to come to accelerate and provide solutions at scale, then I think that ecosystem itself is more important. Thank you so much, John. I think I would also ask you to give one closing note because, you know, we have viewers from all over the world watching us. What do you think in this battle that we are fighting against climate change from the sustainability perspective? How much would you judge is our chances as a global community?
So, Jose, we've all heard about the David and Goliath story, where David beat Goliath.
Yeah.
In this journey, I think the Davids and the Goliaths have to come together because the common enemy is the degradation of the planet, and it's going to impact all of us. So, if large companies, large industrial organizations, and small startups come together, I think we have a far better chance of making this place a better place to live and work in.
Thank you so much, John, and namaste in these
Thank you.
times of COVID. Wish you all the best and success for the initiatives that you take. Thank you so much for being here and giving us this excellent starting point for our session. And now
Thank you so
back
much.
to